Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Pogue here. So, today we're going to talk about, is there any hope for MAGA? And I'm talking about them coming back to reality. And the answer to that is yes and no. No, in regards to the political movement, but yes, with an asterisk for the people and the followers of that movement. And I'll unpack why. So, you have to differentiate between the movement and the leaders of that movement and the people that follow them. And really, I'm framing this as in people who leave a cult, whether that's personality cult, religious cult, you name it. You have to think of it like that. So for the leaders of the movement, no. Either they've drank their own Kool-Aid or they've got high off their own supply, whatever analogy you want to name it. But we're talking about sociopathic, horrible people. And most of them, kind of like J.D. Vance and Trump, they know what they're doing. There's no hope for them. Plus, the movement itself is non-sustainable. It praises corruption, the worst attributes. It's just all it cares about is holding power for a small elite at the exclusion of everybody else. It is fascism, authoritarianism, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically that's it. It concentrates power in the hands of a small group of elites that gets smaller and smaller. Those people, there's no hope for them. All they can do is be held accountable. And this movement stopped at all costs to preserve democracy. That's it. But the followers, yes. Not all of them, but some of them will break away. And they'll break away in stages. And let me unpack that. Because a lot of this comes from, I say things like, you should cut them out of the community, or you should, don't give them any more energy than absolutely necessary. And a lot of folks, that's pretty rough for them because, that's their family member, that's a friend, that's a loved one, maybe a spouse. And, it's like, man, I just want them to be the person they were. And I understand that. I get that. From a very human level, I get it. Now, I want to say this with a big caveat. We can't dehumanize MAGA folks, right? And I don't want to go down this doom and gloom, hole and say there's absolutely no hope for all of them. The thing about this is, the hard answer is, it depends on each individual person. They're going to have to deprogram in their own way and in their own time. Because a lot of this has to do with sunk cost fallacy and really kind of hitting whatever point that they hit that causes them to question core beliefs. Now, core beliefs psychologically are some of the hardest to change. And once you change them, or that comes out in an extreme like MAGA, and the reason this movement has gotten more and more and more extreme is because the further that you travel away from reality, right, you have to do more and more to validate that. And so it's kind of like this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If reality's here and then you start moving away from it, you start accepting crazier and crazier beliefs in order to validate that move. But at the same time, as you're validating it, you're getting further and further away. So eventually there's going to be a crash in some sort. There's going to be a psychic or a psychological break. Something either you will lash out and you will commit an extremist act, like you see these people lashing out in violence and then, self-terminating, whatever you can say, or they they crack. And that could manifest in all kinds of ways. Some of them come back to the fold, to the reality, and some of them don't. Some of them are broken. But yes, there is a path back. Now, what does that mean for the rest of us? Well, you're not going to, you have to treat them with kindness, yes, but you got to establish principles. There has to be consequences for those actions, right? And even among your own community, I'm talking about not the community you live in as in like the town. I'm talking about your family and your friends and people that are on your side as supporters. There has to be standards in which we allow people back into the fold, right? You can't come in and, we have women, LGBTQ, people of color, and they get to be racist and they get to just, like be disruptive and corrosive, because then that hurts us. We say, no, man, that ain't allowed here. You want to stay here. You want to talk to us. This is the standard. This is the bare minimum you have to meet. Kindness, respect. We're going to give these to you, but we require them in return. And if you don't like that, well, then there's the door. You can come back when you're ready to do that. And that's honestly part of the road back. That's why I don't really like this language of like, oh, they didn't know. Oh, they got duped. Yes, they did get duped. They are victims, right? However, that doesn't give you a free pass to cause other people pain, to inflict suffering on other people. You are a grown adult. There are things expected of you in this life. Well, I didn't know, Fred. I didn't understand. They lied to me. I understand they lied to you. And I hate that. And that's terrible. However, you have just as much access to information as I do. You chose not to do it. And part of it is you guys follow people around and you listen to your leaders in your movement, and then you lambaste them. So I know you just chose not to listen to the other side or when people tried to help you. I would be very surprised, and it's probably statistically possible, but I would be shocked if there was a MAGA person that had no access to any alternative arguments, no access, or didn't know how to access research or thinking like critical to anything to enhance those critical thinking skills. That's just not possible. And that's the problem that these folks have, is they're catered to their ignorance and they're allowed to live in that ignorance. That's why I say is, like when, somebody got on me about saying, well, you're treating these people like they're stupid. No, you're treating them like they're stupid. And what I mean by that is you're not holding them to the standard of being a rational thinking adult. Now, we may not act rationally all the time. Hell, I sure don't. But this is the standard that we need to set for the world, that we need to set for our own country, our community, our state, whatever. And the problem we're having right now, and why we have Trump and why we have all these people, is we are not enforcing that standard. So, getting back to it, is there hope? Yeah. I think there is going to be hope for some of them. We don't have to get all of them. And I'm not even saying we have to get the other ones. They have to do the work. They have to put it in. We have to say, this is the standard. If you want to come back over here, dignity, respect, treating people with just a little bit, a modicum of courtesy, just some decorum and social norms again. And then we'll talk. Because without that, then, they're not showing a willingness that they're going to hear you out. Because for a lot of them, when they argue with you and they come at you with all this, all this mocking and all this other stuff and their slurs and everything else, that's just them trying to validate this ideology that's not working. They don't want to leave it because it's cost them so much. That's that sunk cost fallacy. They've lost friends, they've lost family, they've lost time. They've believed it for so long. And it's psychologically jarring to realize, man, I've been duped. I've believed in this thing for so long and it's a lie. Good Lord, like what does that say about me? That's a hard thing to overcome. That's why people modify core beliefs, or they outright reject, something that flies in the face of that. It's hard to overcome. But there are people that overcome it. I overcame mine. But it takes a while, and people do it in their own time. That's why I say, you don't want to waste too much of your energy on somebody that's not ready, because they're not going to listen to you. And especially if you're doing it at the exclusion of people that are in your community and that do need your help and do need your energy, right? So basically, leave the pathway open for them, for MAGA to come back, because there is hope for some of them. But don't do it to where it starts hurting you. It starts hurting people that will support you and they are on your team. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.